Well, good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 17th. It's almost 7:30 p.m. Bitcoin, what a surprise, is trading around 67,500 or give or take a few dollars, which is more or less exactly where it's been for the last 6 days, I think, of trading since it made its low below 60. I'm not surprised, but evidently a lot of other people are, because if there's one thing I've noticed over the last day, it's an amazing amount of emotional nonsense being spewed by people on this platform. So, look, I was in the middle of one of them. Macro Monday got a lot, and it's a pretty good show. And we talk about macro ideas, etc. But Mike McGlone, feeling his oats, decided to press on his negative Bitcoin theories, and Larry Lepard was having none of it. And Mike was talking over Larry, and he's since apologized, but Larry got mad and yada, yada, yada. Lots of drama. I mean, if you had told me 2 years ago that there was going to be a dramatic event on Macro Monday where somebody pissed off somebody else and they left, and that I was in the show that week and not the cause of it, I would have been stunned, because I think of myself as probably the most obnoxious person on the show, but what the hell do I know? The proximate cause for this one was a literally stupid suggestion that Mike has been making for the last 2 years. Now, Mike's a really smart guy and has a lot of really smart things to say. And a lot of his trading wisdom, if you look at it from gold and silver and oil and natural gas, has had incredible utility. He's actually called Bitcoin okay also at times, and other times he's been completely wrong. But this one is just silly. His argument is that because people can make any crypto at the spur of the moment on pump.fun or a bunch of other platforms, and there's 2 million competitors, that takes away from the value proposition of Bitcoin. And that's a bunch of happy horse shit. As Dr. Donish would say, that's like saying gold has competitors because it's a rock from all other rocks, and that takes away the value of gold. The truth is you do have to do a little bit of learning to understand that Bitcoin is different, to understand where it comes from, how it's there, what its process is, and what does it stand for, and the fact that it does have an absolute value cap at 21 million. But we'll push that to the bottom for a second, because today we had yet another big story on the internet where I guess Fred Krueger hosted a space with David Bailey, and he and Mike Alfred got into it. Now, I don't want to get into the individuals because there's just no point in it. I actually, for different reasons, have respect for both of the protagonists in this fight. I tend to be more on Team Mike only because Mike speaks my language in terms of investments, in terms of how corporate entities should operate, what you look for in management that will make you money. And I think David Bailey is an exceptional promoter, has done an amazing job with the Bitcoin conference and other things that he's taken, but has proven from an operational perspective to be a little bit lacking. At least that's what the stock price says. That's what a lot of others say. And there is quite a bit of reason to think that today's announcements in terms of his, taking stakes in his other companies was self-profiting at the expense of shareholders. And that's probably true. But leaving all that aside, it's just the amount of emotion is off the charts. Today we saw Arthur Hayes drop another report, and his report basically made comments that drive me nuts. I mean, Arthur's usually pretty good about understanding liquidity flows, etc. But when even he starts making the statement that, well, the price of Bitcoin is dropping, so it must be sniffing out liquidity draining, as opposed to actually showing liquidity data where that's actually not really the case, and trying to explain Bitcoin's fall relative to NASDAQ and it having some sort of extrasensory perception, that's bullshit. Bitcoin's fall relative to NASDAQ is because all the people in the crypto community said, shit, the 4-year cycle ended on 1010. There was a massive deleveraging event and it needed to fully play out. Full stop. Nothing else matters. Everything else is narrative chasing price as opposed to price driving narrative. But put that aside for a second. The reactions to this are just crazy. And people get mad at him for saying, well, you said it was going to go up earlier, etc. Look, here's the bottom line. The crypto community is filled with a variety of camps. You have people who have no knowledge of the financial system whatsoever. That's just a fact. You have people who do, but actually want it to burn the hell down and are from the OG standpoint saying, listen, there's nothing redeemable in the financial system as it currently stands. I kind of understand where they're coming from because it's an enormous cartel. It tremendously advantages pools of capital that are pre-existing, but trying to operate outside of that system is very, very difficult. So, my practical head says better to operate inside the system. Then you have the one I talked about a couple days ago, the Hugh Hendry idea, which is the current system is basically set up because fiat needs a money that cheats to overcome human frailty. And Bitcoin is potentially the best way to evaluate how much people are cheating. And that value will make it worth a lot of money, assuming humans allow it to get there. And that's sort of where I come from. So when I look at the market and when I look at what's going on, all the emotion, all I'll say is this: people who are depressed, every time you see bottoms, there are people who are depressed, people who are cheerleading, saying, yes, it has to crash. I have seen the words have to go down to 30 or 40,000 more than I could possibly imagine. I will never say, even if I think it is going to go to 30 or 40,000, I don't actually, but if I did, I would never say have to. Even if I think it is going to go over 250,000, I never say have to. I say the probabilities say that at some point, Bitcoin will start to approach digital gold. Therefore, I believe there is a probability, and it is valued at, and it is a higher probability the market is pricing itself at, that it will go that way. Note not using the word have to, will, and certainty, because of one thing you learn in markets, its markets are not as predictable as you think. So anytime someone says this has to happen, I fade that. Now, if the multitude says this has to happen, I sincerely fade it. At the same time, at tops, if the multitude is saying it has to keep going higher, that's when you want to pull the plug. And the only reason I didn't pull the plug the last time in October simply is because of the tax situation. I didn't know it was going to drop 50, 60, 70%. If I did, then taking a 30 some odd percent tax loss would make sense. But I didn't know that. And frankly, anyone who says they did, God bless, because it's just not an easy thing to do. But with that said, at some point in the future, we will get back to actual analysis and the emotions will run down. But watch, because the more emotional, the less rational the market starts acting. That's exactly when you see turns in the market. Doesn't mean it's here yet. It means it is a symptom of what's going on, and we will see. As I said before, I don't expect to see any major changes in the market in the next couple of weeks. We shall see if that's true or not. God knows I'm looking forward to March's articles. First time in its history, Bitcoin had a down January and February. Like that means anything. But you're going to see them, so get ready. In any case, that's all I have for today. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you again tomorrow.